months in Boston. You guys were having me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
Eastern Conference. I have some bad news. You're going to get your butts kicked this year by the Boston Celtics.
The entire Eastern Conference.
Does that include Philly?
Eastern Conference.
So weird.
Indy and
Boston
Milwaukee
Celtics.
and Washington and
They're going to win.
Toronto?
They're going to win 67 games. They're going to be up by 30 points in a row.
There's been reports about uncertainty surrounding that commitment. Has anything wavered in your mind?
I mean, well, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I feel is best for my career.
Has your mindset shifted, though, in regards to re-signing with Boston, like the announcement?
Ask me July 1st.
Tell you this, House. I'd rather have Looney than Kyrie next year on the Celtics. If you gave me, like, Looney's door A and Kyrie's door B, get Kyrie the fuck out of here. I'd rather have Looney. Seriously.
But I know his teammates and those Boston Celtics fans are right now.
Can I just ask this? Is anyone else like really annoyed by the way that Bill Simmons says that shit from the second clip? Because I cannot stand his voice in that clip. The way he's talking all quiet with all of that arrogance, it's like fucking Celtics circle jerk ASMR. It just pisses me off. I don't dislike Bill Simmons, but that clip made me want to buy his book and burn it. I understand that that would ultimately be a positive for him, but it would make me feel better. Anyways, breaking news. The Boston Celtics kind of suck this year. I don't know if you heard that or not. If you're a Celtics fan, I'm sorry that I had to be the one to break it to you. Kyrie Irving was disappointing and he was one of the main catalysts in the Celtics' internal problems. There was a lot of conflict between him and the young guys on the team as Kyrie tried to be a leader and failed miserably. If anything, he came off as more of a locker room cancer than a leader. Not saying that he is that, but he was closer to the negative than he was to being a positive in terms of leadership. Now, I made a video a week ago about the Celtics' problems and the future of that team, so this video is not about that. This video is specifically about Danny Ainge, because I have seen this dude get praised for pretty much the entirety of my time as an NBA fan, and as of recently, it seems like the empire that he has been building has been crumbling down. The Celtics have recently become a more hyped version of the Minnesota Timberwolves, where it's quickly turning into one lone star to waste away on a trash team. It's not actually that bleak, but I like to be dramatic, so I want to talk about why Danny Ainge is overrated. Now, before you come for me, Celtics fans, I want to tell you something. A while ago, I made a video on why I thought Brad Stevens was overrated, and in general, other Celtics fans were pretty respectful, whether they agreed or not. And in my last video, that was on the Anthony Davis trade, Lakers fans were not so respectful. So if you're respectful in the comment section, you can use that to say that you're better than Lakers fans. If you're mean, it means you are no better than a Lakers fan, and nobody wants that.
Rebound. Save. Absolutely incredibly. With the acrobatic alley-oop.
Now, Danny Ainge's two biggest notable moves really cannot be criticized. Those moves were the Paul Pierce-Kevin Garnett trade, absolute banger, can't even try to say otherwise. And actually, looking for some Bill Simmons clips for the intro, I found this.
Celtics, Garnett, Pierce, Jason Terry coming here to Brooklyn. Bill, what's your reaction?
I thought this was 35 cents on the dollar. There's no guarantee that any of those picks will get in the lottery. Look at what just happened with Oklahoma City. They thought they were getting this choice lottery pick. It ended up being number 12. And they're gutting the team. And, it's not like they have salary cap flexibility because Rondo makes big money. Jeff Green and Wallace combined make $20 million next year. So it's not like they're gutting the team and getting to start over. I don't like the trade.
I don't know why I'm being so mean to Bill Simmons today, but whatever. So the Nets trade was great. And the next one is the decision to trade back in the 2017 draft to take Jason Tatum rather than drafting Markelle Fultz. Now that one was obviously a great move, but I think the genius of the move was severely overrated. One, the Celtics had a point guard at the time, so Fultz didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think that everyone saw that Tatum would be good. Maybe not as ready to contribute to winning basketball as he was, but definitely good. And with Fultz, the main reason that he looks like a bust is a combination of injuries and the Sixers fucking up his jump shot. If he finds that shot again, he can still be a star player. But that was ultimately a very smart move. And the Kyrie Irving trade doesn't look as great in hindsight, being that he's about to leave, but I still think most GMs make that move. Some say trading Isaiah Thomas after what he did for the Celtics in the playoffs led to some karma, which would be why this whole team is falling apart. I disagree because I don't really believe in karma, because if karma did exist, the Raptors probably wouldn't be champions right now. So let's look at the move that they made after the 2017 draft. That move would be giving Gordon Hayward a max contract. A lot of people view criticism of this contract as hindsight, and while that may be the case for some people, to me, horrific injury or no, this signing was bad. Gordon Hayward was not worth a max contract. For the Jazz, before signing with the Celtics, Hayward made the first All-Star team of his career, unfortunately probably his last, and he did that averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, shooting 47, 40, 84, while playing solid defense. Definitely a good year. Those stats remind me of CJ McCollum, Lou Williams, Danilo Gallinari, and that's no disrespect to Hayward. That's just how good Gallo was this year. Seriously. Look up his stats. He went way under the radar. If I'm being nice, those stats remind me of Jimmy Butler and like Paul George 2 years ago, just minus being that great at defense. And Jimmy in particular, by the way, is not worth a max contract, though I'm sure the Celtics are going to give it to him. What Gordon Hayward was a lower level all-star, and a lower level all-star should not be making max money. Max contracts should be reserved for superstars or superstar level or close to players, not Gordon Hayward. Hayward's injury didn't make his contract bad. Hayward's injury made an already bad contract terrible. Now I'm rooting for the guy to get better. Side note, I actually witnessed Hayward's first game back live. It was a preseason game versus the Charlotte Hornets in the UNC arena, and the game absolutely sucked, but at least I got to see him brick a few jump shots. Anyways, the contract went from bad to terrible, and it's one of the biggest things holding back the Celtics right now. Now you might be saying, Rusty, the Jazz and the Heat offered Hayward max money, so the Celtics had to offer him max money to get him. Well, if that's the case, then let him go somewhere else. That is not a fucking excuse. It might be for an average GM, but Danny Ainge is supposed to be a god amongst men, the best GM in the league. He should know just because it means you won't get your man doesn't mean that you should waste your cap space. If a player asks for more money than they are worth, then you let them walk. It's not complicated. Now, the Hayward signing is really the only really bad move that Danny Ainge has made. Looking at it then and looking at it now, signing Hayward was a bad decision. But that's really the only awful move that I've seen by Ainge in the last couple of years. But that's the thing with Danny Ainge. His biggest faults don't come with the moves that he has made, but rather the moves that he hasn't. For the most part, the moves that he has made have been solid, but some of the stuff that he's sat on has been terrible. Not trading for Jimmy Butler in the past. Maybe in hindsight that ends up being the wrong move for getting them to where they were, though where they are now makes that not that desirable, but at the time, there was a lot of people scratching their heads at the Celtics' inaction there. Not trading Terry Rozier in the offseason. Again, stupid inaction. You could have very easily gotten a solid player or a first-round pick in exchange for Terry in this offseason, but instead Ainge sat on it, where both potential outcomes led to a negative for the Celtics anyways. Either Terry becomes a great sixth man and another team is willing to pay him more than you are, so you gotta let him go, or it turns out that he actually sucks and he was just hot for a couple of games, so now he has no value and he either still leaves, or even worse, the Celtics pay him way too much now that Kyrie Irving is leaving because of his playoff performance in the past. That would be another bad move added to the list. But the biggest case of inaction with Danny Ainge came with not trading for Kawhi Leonard. There was a deal in place, and this isn't just a hypothetical hypothetical, this was officially something that was discussed. There was a deal in place to send Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart to the Spurs for Kawhi. If that wasn't enough, Ainge could have thrown in Terry Rozier. That deal is better for the long-term future than the deal that the Spurs got from the Raptors. The Spurs got a backup center and a playoff disappearing act for potentially the best player in the NBA. This would have won over that trade. The Celtics could have had a lineup of Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. That would have been a hell of a team and probably the championship favorites. With Rozier and Brown gone, Tatum is now the only young guy on the team, so they don't have to deal with that Kyrie Irving conflict. The duo of Kyrie and the Claw could have easily won a championship, but instead the Celtics held on to what some fans called the next Kawhi Leonard and Jaylen Brown. The Celtics lost in the second round, and now Kyrie Irving is leaving. Tough. Now, if I can interject some Bulls talk in here, perception in the long term can have an impact on how people view you in the short term. With Ainge, I think many people think of that Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade, and I think that people look at a GM or GMs like Gar Pax and think that they're a bad front office because of trades in the past. But if you look at it, in the past 2 years, in terms of playing the cards that you are dealt, which is all that a GM can really do, is Danny Ainge really that much better of a general manager than John Paxson is? In the last 2 years, Paxson has played his cards better than Ainge has. Pulling the Jimmy Butler trade at the perfect time, getting a great return. Drafting Wendell Carter Jr. when there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of pressure from the Bulls fan base to draft Michael Porter Jr. Trading for Otto Porter Jr. Clearly positive steps in the right direction, whereas the Celtics seem to be going in a negative direction. Anyways, that is why I believe Danny Ainge is overrated. Now remember, Celtics fans, if you leave a hate comment or dislike the video, it means you're no better than a Lakers fan. You wouldn't want that. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to go subscribe to the Hoopscast. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Thank you for watching, and cue the outro music.